Good morning, my friend.
Hello.
Welcome in. Jen and I are off for the Aiken trolley tour this morning, right?
I think so.
And what are we going to see?
Aiken on a trolley.
I think we're going to do the Oakland Gardens, and we're going to learn about the equestrian community and see a lot of great houses. Anyway, we're going to have fun. So off we go. If you're new here, welcome in. I'm so glad you stopped by. I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything makeup, skincare, and lifestyle for the over 50 woman. Today, we're going to do a little tour of Aiken on the trolley. We hear it's air conditioned, so we're happy about that. And we're going to learn a lot about the town. I'm so glad to have you join us. This has been so interesting. We're learning so much. Jen and I are both going, I didn't know that. Did you know that? We're here at Oakland Gardens now, which is a huge park right in the middle of Aiken. We're going to walk around a little bit. It's fascinating. It's gorgeous. I'll take you guys along with us. That was so fascinating. We learned so much about the history of Aiken. I had no idea, did you?
No, I loved it.
It was wonderful. We learned about the Civil War, how the town of Aiken became popular, who lived here. It was just really wonderful. If you live in Aiken and you haven't done this yet, you've got to do it. If you visit Aiken, you've got to do it. It's Saturday mornings. They do sell out. We actually were going to try to go last weekend, but it was sold out. So plan ahead. It's really worth it. This morning I thought we'd do a little garden tour. It's actually a mini garden tour, and I'm not sure if the mini applies to the size of the garden or the length of the tour. It's probably both. The garden's been in for a few weeks now, and it's all raised bed, at least the vegetables are. I do have some landscaping in the front. It's not quite ready for prime time, but I did want to show you how far my vegetable garden has come in just a few weeks. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I have 10 of these cloth raised bed gardening containers, and this is what I'm using for a large portion of my vegetable garden. These particular containers that I have are 15-gallon containers, and they came in a pack of 10. I went ahead and planted all of them, and you know what? I was so surprised at how quickly they filled up. But by gosh, I am going to get a lot of food out of these containers. So let's go ahead and take a look. I planted about, oh gosh, maybe 3 weeks ago, and look at how much food I already have coming up. These are radishes. Now I only planted half the pot in these radishes because they grow so quickly. I'm going to plant the other half of the pot probably sometime this week, and then once I harvest this side of the pot, I will plant it again, and I'll go back and forth because they grow very quickly and I can harvest them pretty quickly, and I'll do that until the frost comes. Here we have a whole pot full of beets. I love roasted beets, so I'm looking forward to adding these to a dinner time meal. I have my basil in this pot, and oh my gosh, it is so happy. I have another basil in one of my green stock planters. It's not as happy as this one, so I think I might transplant that basil into this pot and see if I can't get a great big mound of basil going. This right here is my kale. I have shared before, I love my mineral-rich leafy greens, and this is a fan favorite with me. I love to saute kale with other vegetables, put it over brown rice, sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese on top, and oh, that's a lovely meal. Here's my one bean plant. I actually planted, I think 6 or 7 bean plants, and very few of them germinated. This one clearly is doing the best of all of them. I have a small one here. It looks like it croaked recently in the last few days. And then I have another one, a tiny one coming up here. So far, not hitting it out of the park with the beans, although this one is looking happy and healthy. My zucchini is going gangbusters. Oh gosh, it's looking so lovely. I have gardened most of my life in California, and we don't have squash bugs really as a big issue there. Zucchini grows like a weed, and mostly at the end of the season, you're begging people to take more zucchini because you have so much. Zucchini is a little tougher to grow in this area because of the pest pressure. The reason I put this zucchini in as a late fall choice is because the pest pressure is less in the fall. I have several blooms on this plant. I'm really looking forward to seeing if I'm going to get a meaningful zucchini crop this season. I put in 2 cherry tomatoes. The reason I did that so late in the season is, first of all, I didn't get here until July. And secondly, because of the zone I'm in 8A, we don't have frost until probably about the middle of November, which means I had plenty of time to plant a tomato plant and get a harvest out of it. You can see I've got some blooms right here. I don't have a tomato set on this plant yet, but over on this plant, these are both cherry tomatoes. I do have a small little cluster starting right here, and then one again in the back. So I'm fairly hopeful that I'm going to get at least a few cherry tomatoes this season. Here we have another deep leafy green. This is my chard. It's looking pretty doggone good. And then over here in the final pot are my cucumbers. You know, I'm kind of surprised that these are not growing more quickly. I put these in probably 2 or 3 weeks before the rest of the planters, and I had thought that they would be growing up that fence by now. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get much of a cucumber harvest this season. I have planted some of the pockets in my green stock planters. I have 2 of these, and if you haven't seen these are brilliant. This is a way to get a lot of vegetables growing in a very, very small footprint. This was designed by a company that does plastic extrusions. In other words, they make products that are plastic into different shapes and forms, and they had this idea to create this planter. It's absolutely brilliant, and so many gardeners love these green stalks. There are some knockoffs. I don't think the knockoffs work nearly as well because you have to be able to water all down the planter in a very simple way, and you have to make sure it's going to work properly. So with the green stock, you actually water from the top here, and it trickles down all the way through the planter down to the end. They really are brilliant. If you don't have much room to garden and you want to grow some vegetables, this might be a great option for you. So far, I have planted mustard greens along this top row, and you can see they're looking really good. The next 2 rows are carrots. They're different varieties. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I did denote which carrots were which. This looks like Danvers carrots, and you can see my carrots are coming up nice and cute. The green stalks come in 2 depths of the pockets. This is the longer pocket, and so growing something that is a tuber that's going to grow down into the soil will work on this, and this is why I put my carrots in the green stalk. Here's the basil plant that I have in the green stalk, and you can see it's just not doing as well as the other basil. I think I'm going to go ahead and replant that today over with the other basil and then utilize this green stalk for some more vegetables. So that is a mini look at my mini garden, and I'll tell you what, I am going to get so much food out of this, probably much more than I can eat on my own. Can you guys see Dex up in the window? That's his favorite place. He just loves it up there. I want to talk about mistakes. And I know that sounds a little dark, but trust me, stay to the end because it's going to get better. What has brought up this whole topic for me is I have a girlfriend, she's younger, who's having marital problems. There's some infidelity issues, not on her side, on his side. And she has been sharing with me a little bit, and I have been very, very focused on staying very supportive without giving advice or in any way meddling in the situation, just really being supportive of her. This situation brought up a lot of issues for me because it's a fairly intimate topic in my world. Many, many years ago, and I was married for a long time. I was married for over 20 years, and during my marriage, earlier on in my marriage, I found out that my husband was spending special time with his secretary. The circumstances for me were that I had just given birth to my first child. I was breastfeeding. I was a stay-at-home mom and a homemaker, and I was very, very happy to do that. And the bottom line is I found out and I stayed. And what I can say is that decision right there was the most soul-crushing, humiliating, painful choice I could have made. Truly, it could be labeled as a mistake. My decision was made based on my circumstances. I did not have any family support system. In other words, I could not go home and move in with mom and dad again. I was really fairly isolated in that arena. I wasn't working at the time, and I didn't feel like I could go out and work full time and give my daughter the attention she needed. And to be honest with you, I just felt like I didn't have very many choices. One of the things I said to my now ex-husband was, I will stay, but you have to not work with that woman anymore. And you know what he said? He said, no, she's still going to be my secretary. So it went from humiliating and painful to just over-the-top ridiculous. And I found out firsthand very, very clearly what a human will do when they feel in a position of power and control. The upshot from that whole experience was my marriage was over. I mean, it was over long before it got buried. And I felt horrible for so very long. The action of giving up on myself, of not honoring myself, of not supporting myself was so acutely painful. It is imprinted on my soul to this day. And I was thinking about it specifically because of this girlfriend of mine who's going through what she's going through. When I look back, I realized that that could be labeled a mistake, but in fact, it was probably one of the greatest lessons, valuable lessons I've ever had in my life. I became intimately familiar with what it feels like to not honor myself, to not support myself, to not believe in myself, to feel like I didn't have choices when in fact I had a world full of choices, but I put those conditions on myself. And what I realized is that my decision to stay had nothing to do with them, with my ex and his secretary. It had to do with how I saw myself and how I valued myself. That situation probably did more to form who I am today than almost anything that I can think of. So for me to label it a mistake now is to really throw away so many valuable nuggets that I got from that experience. When I see someone like my friend who is struggling with, do I stay or do I go? What I know very clearly now, decades down the road, is the choice that is made has everything to do with where we are in our personal growth. Back when this was happening to me, I had a lot of growing to do. I had a lot of strength to build. I had a lot of focus on my own self and my dignity to put into place. There were so many things that I needed from that experience to grow personally and to become a more whole and fully formed human. Now that I look back on it, it is still painful. It really is. It's certainly not the most painful thing that's ever happened to me, but it certainly was painful. But oh my gosh, was it instructive. I learned so much, and I think that that situation is one of the reasons why I am so fiercely independent today and so fiercely centered in my opinion and what I think is right for me. No one on this planet, and I mean no one, can tell me what to do. It's just not going to happen. You might suggest, and I might think about it and weigh the pros and cons and make my own decision, but never, ever again will I ever let someone dictate to me how my life goes or how my life runs. And you know what? It's not a struggle. It is a delightfully fun, interesting journey day by day to look inside myself, feel what's right inside of me, and make a decision based on how my energy feels about what's going on. So as I watch my friend struggle through this challenge, what I know for sure is that she won't make a mistake. She will make the decision that is perfectly aligned with what it is she needs to learn and where she needs to grow. That's just the beauty of how the universe works. I know today so much more because of that situation, because of that pain, because of that deeply felt humiliation, and because I didn't value me. I can't blame my ex. I can't blame the secretary. I can't blame anybody. I can't hold anybody responsible for my choice but me, because I'm the one that made it. And I made it from a place of not recognizing my own personal power, my own personal strength, how important it is to honor and respect myself. Because if I don't honor and respect myself, no one else is going to. So in closing, I want to share two things that I believe are true. Number one, there are no coincidences. None. No coincidences on this planet. Everything is perfectly timed depending on the vibration and the energy around the situation. And the second is there are no mistakes. I'm out at Grassroots Nursery. I'm meeting with Ryan this morning. We have some stuff to go over, but before I find him, I want to show you guys something that most people don't get to see out here because it's not open to the public. I'm kind of sneaking in, so I hope I don't get in trouble, but it's really cool and I thought that you enjoy seeing it. So we're back behind the nursery and we're going into this greenhouse that will be open to the public at some point, but right now it's like the super secret place. Look at this. I'll tell you what, you guys, I just got goosebumps walking in here. This is so exciting. This is Ryan's rare plant nursery. He has a passion and a knowledge for rare plants that I haven't seen in anyone else. Truly, he has more knowledge in his head, encyclopedic knowledge about specific plants and rare plants. It really fascinates me. I hope I can learn from him. And he has created this nursery filled with these exotic plants that he not only crossbreeds and propagates, but then he grows and sells. And a lot of these plants are several $100s. Like he has monsteras that are $600. It is so incredibly interesting, and he's so passionate about it. So I want to just walk around and show you what he has here. He said one time, I'm going to send you home with one of these expensive monsteras. I would not take it. I don't think I would be able to sleep at night with a $600 houseplant. I would feel so responsible for it. So here's an example of some of his plants. Now look at that monstera leaf. It is half variegated and half white. It's just so incredibly fascinating in here. And he has so many varieties, so much going on. Look at these ferns that he's got hanging from the ceiling. So what his plan is, or at least this is what he told me last time we were talking about this, is he wants to actually open this up to the public and do like wine tastings or craft beer events, that sort of thing, so that people can come in and actually hang out with these incredible plants. Look at this one, White Knight, $300. And there are people who are so into this. He actually runs in a circle of rare plant people, and they kind of, you know, swap back and forth and buy each other's plants and that sort of thing. So there's absolutely a market for this type of plant growth. So this is, I cannot pronounce that name. It's Latin, $329 for this plant. Could you imagine? I would feel so nervous owning that. So as we move here, one thing you're probably hearing the birds in the background. Ryan also raises exotic birds. I'm not sure how many he has. It seems like everywhere I go on his property, you're going to hear a bird or you're going to stumble upon a cage. So as we go back further into the greenhouse, look at this stunning creature up here. I just love coming out here, honestly. It's like a treat for me. So we have lots of little furry friends here. These look like finches. Can you see them in there? They're moving fairly fast. So over here, I want to show you how he is getting ready to open this up to the public. He actually had a local woodworker build this all wood bar. Isn't that gorgeous? And you can see the stools he has underneath it. So he's going to have events, wine tastings, craft beer, that sort of thing. And people can come in, sit around, have something fun to drink, and maybe even something to eat, and be amongst all these incredible rare plants. Today I'm going to start on the chair painting project. If you didn't see the video where I talked about this chair, I actually ordered this chair off of Wayfair and I love so much about it. I love the shape and the scale and the legs and everything except the fabric. The fabric to me just looks like knockahyde. And so I thought that I would go ahead and paint it, because I've actually watched several YouTube videos where you paint this type of fabric and it works really, really well. So I went ahead and ordered 3 different paint samples and I'm going to test them on the underside of this chair. So let's go ahead and do that and see what the different colors look like. This is Dixie Belle chalk paint. So Dixie Belle is the brand and apparently it is a very, very flexible paint and works really well for this type of application. I ended up getting 3 different shades of off-white. I have sandbar, buttercream, and drop cloth. So I'm going to go ahead and test them on this underside area of the chair, and we'll take a look at them and try to decide which one is going to be the best fit. Here are the paint samples, 2 coats, and they're dry. So this first one is buttercream, this is drop cloth, and this is sandbar. I went ahead and kept the jars right underneath where I'm testing them on the underneath of the chair. However, one trick that I do when I'm testing paint samples, in case I don't keep things organized, is I do them in alphabetical order. So if I get mixed up, if the jars get out of order, I'll know which paint sample is which. When these were done last evening, it's the next day, I originally thought that I was going to go with sandbar, which is almost an ecru or a very, very cool gray tone with just a tiny bit leaning towards taupe. Today it looks like I'm going to be going with drop cloth, which is more of an off-white color. Buttercream here is way too white. The reason that I decided against sandbar and in favor of drop cloth is I feel that drop cloth is going to be more universal. When I move and if I change the color palette in my home, I feel like drop cloth is going to be more universal and will be easier to integrate into a new color scheme. So the tricky thing about colors, particularly when you're swatching like this, is that the impact of the color can change dramatically when it becomes bigger. That's why when you test a small sample on a wall, it can look okay, then you get it up on the whole wall and it looks disastrous. There's a big change in the impact when you have a larger surface covered in that color. I think that buttercream is going to be the most universal, the easiest on the eyes, and I'll be able to style the chair with a throw, with a pillow, and have it really be able to change its look depending on what accessories I'm adding to it. So I'm going to go ahead and order a larger size of the paint, and as soon as that comes in, I'm going to get this thing painted and back in the living room. I'm just getting ready to work on what I think is going to be the final piece of art that I'm going to create for this house, at least for now. I picked up this canvas, and this is a box canvas, and what that means by that is that it is wrapped around deep edges, so you don't actually need a frame. You can go ahead and just paint around the edges, and that finishes off the piece. I picked this up at a thrift store that's right down the street from me. They have good stuff in there. I got it for $10. The reason I picked it up is because it's the perfect size, and because it's a box canvas, I'm not going to have to frame it. I'm going to be able to put it up on the wall right when I finish painting it. The first thing I'm going to do, because it had been sitting in there for a while, is to wipe it down, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing white. So I not only have to paint the front edge white, but I'm going to paint the sides white as well. I'm not sure if I showed you this before, but what I put on my little table here in the kitchen that I use to put my paints on and stuff, to protect the table, I just put a large, outdoor trash bag over it. That's as fancy as it gets. I'm gonna let that first coat dry, and to keep my brush nice and moist in between coats, I'm just gonna stick it in a baggie. I'm not gonna bother to wash it out. So I just seal the baggie and wrap it around my brush, and it'll be fine when I come back in a few minutes. I've got the canvas all prepped and ready, and I imagine this is blowing out the white balance right here. You photographers probably are so disgusted with me. I'm so poor at this camera thing, but we're going to carry on. I am going to now sketch out what I'm going to paint. I very rarely do that. As a matter of fact, I even have pencil sketches, which I hardly ever do, but this particular piece is all about the negative space. It's going to be very simple, but I think it's going to be a really cool design. I know exactly where it's going to go. So I'm going to use a pencil. This is just a little automatic pencil, and I'm going to use this sketch, which is the one that I liked out of all of them that I did. And I'm going to leave the pencil marks in the painting because I think it's going to add to the artistic quality of it. So wish me luck. And I want to let you know that right down at my feet is Lucy. She lays right in front of my easel. I don't know why. Lucy and I are in North Augusta, which is about a 20-minute drive from where I live in Aiken. And we're walking along the Savannah River on a river walk path that they have. I don't know how long this goes. This is the first time we've been down here, but it's a nice day in that it's a little bit overcast. It's not blaring sun. It's about, oh gosh, probably 80, 85 degrees. Pretty high humidity. It was raining a few minutes ago. So we're just going to walk along the river for a little bit, see what there is to see, and I'll take you guys along with us. Here's an interesting brick structure right along the river. Looks like this would be a great place for, an evening barbecue or picnic right along the river. And you can see down at the other end, there's an actual wood burning fireplace. Isn't that pretty? And then I noticed over here, there's a dock that leads down to the water. So let's go down there and take a look at that. Isn't this pretty? So peaceful. Cattails along the river. Look at these incredible elephant ears. Wow. Well, Lucy and I walked along the river for a bit. I guess this is the Savannah River. I'm kind of new to the area, so I'm still just discovering what everything is. And you can see behind me, there's some pretty spectacular homes that are right across from the river. So there's the homes, a street, a little grassy mean, and then the parkway, the walkway along the river. This has been a lot of fun. I thought you guys might want to hang out with me while I cook dinner. I actually went to the farmer's market this morning. It's not the big farmer's market they have on Saturday. They have it Saturday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Today is Tuesday when I'm filming this, and the farmer's market is pretty small on Tuesdays. As a matter of fact, there was only a few vendors there. However, one of the little gals that I love to buy from, she's the gal that I get eggs from. She also sells vegetables, and I think I've talked about her before. She must be in her mid-70s. She's just rocking it. So I picked up a dozen eggs. I got some extra large eggs. I think it was $3.50. And then I got 2 eggplant and a bunch of arugula. If you have not had freshly grown, backyard homegrown arugula, oh my gosh. It is a completely different treat than you get in the store. It is so much more peppery and so much more flavorful. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm simply going to rinse it off, put it in my salad spinner, get it dry, and just toss it with some red wine vinegar and olive oil. It is going to be so good. A little salt and pepper on the top. That's all you need. This is going to be delicious. And then the eggplant, I'm just going to slice them, 1/4-inch slices, and then I'm going to fry them and top them with a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. I want to show you guys something that I got since I moved in here. If you have your own garden in the backyard, or if you make your own compost, you need this. This is the handiest little thing. This is my compost bucket. I keep it in the kitchen, actually on the shelf underneath my cutting table. And this is where I put all my vegetable scraps. And it has a really cool top that has a filter in it so that it doesn't get stinky. And then I put all the vegetable scraps that I'm going to put into my compost pile into this. It fills up in about a week, and then I just take it out to the compost pile, mix it in, and it works like a charm. I've actually had it probably about 6 weeks. I put it in the dishwasher a couple of times a month and keep it clean, and it really has worked wonders. So if you're into compost, you need this one. It's a good one. They used to say to salt your eggplant before you cook it to get out the bitterness. You don't really have to do that anymore because they have adjusted the eggplant variety so that you don't have that bitterness. So you really don't have to worry about pre-salting your eggplant. I never salt my eggplant anymore at all. The toughest part is getting the slices about the same width so that they cook as evenly as possible. Okay, so I've got those all sliced up. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about something before I put these in the pan. I was on Twitter this morning. Yes, Twitter. And I saw a photograph, and it was from a Starbucks. And it was a sign in a Starbucks, and I don't know where the location was. But what it said was, as of October, they are going cashless. I find that particularly interesting. I knew it was coming. I know what I think about it. I want to know what you think about it. That's what I'm curious about. So in that particular Starbucks, I don't know if it's with any Starbucks in the whole chain or just that particular Starbucks is going completely cashless. So you tell me in the comments down below what you think about that. So here's my fried eggplant, and I topped it with a little bit of shredded Parmesan that's kind of melting over. It looks so yummy. And I tossed the arugula in olive oil and red wine vinegar, and topped it with a little bit of salt. Bon appetit! I want to thank you so much for joining me for this little snippet into my life. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend it with me, and oh my gosh, I appreciate you. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing and make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Make it a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.